Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's explore Pulumi. So you will learn what is Pulumi, why Pulumi, how is Pulumi compared to Terraform. At the same time, why are some companies migrating from Terraform to Pulumi. You will also learn how to set up your very first Pulumi project, and towards the end, you will learn the pros and cons of Pulumi. This video is going to be quite interesting. Make sure you watch it till the end. First things first, what exactly is Pulumi? So Pulumi is a complete open source IAC platform. If you are not sure what is IAC, imagine you are working as a DevOps engineer and your company is using AWS as a cloud platform. If you are asked to create a single virtual machine, you might head to AWS Management Console, click few buttons and get that virtual machine. But if you are asked to create 10 virtual machines, each virtual machine with a different operating system, this time you will hesitate to use the console because you will do the same thing for 10 different times if you go for console. And you might waste your 30 minutes to 1 hour. This is still fine, but what if I ask you to create 10 virtual machines, as I explained before, but for 10 different teams? Now you will find it completely pointless because you are doing the same thing with minor changes for 100 different times. If you are a good DevOps engineer, at this point, you will think of automating this. Basically, you will think of automating infrastructure management. Not only infrastructure creation, updation, deletion as well. So the process of managing infrastructure by defining infrastructure as code is called as IAC. So IAC is a short form for infrastructure as code. There are so many IAC tools in the market. What these tools do, they facilitate you or they help you define your code in YAML format or in Python programming language, Node.js, or multiple other programming languages. But you might ask, Abhishek, if I know Python, I can directly use AWS APIs. Why should I use this IAC tool? If you use AWS APIs, you might end up writing thousands of lines of code. For each resource, you have to look for API, you have to look for input, output, and you have to figure out ways to fetch it. Whereas if you go for IAC platforms, they offer some packages, they offer some resources. So within your program or even within your template, you can use those resources or packages and significantly reduce your code. So instead of writing thousands of lines of code, you might just write tens of lines of code. So this is the advantage of IAC. Of course, IAC also help you maintain the state of your infrastructure. So it becomes easy to update the existing code. It remembers everything that it created. IAC also help you tear down the entire infrastructure with a single command. If you want to learn more about IAC, I have dedicated videos on that. I'll put the links in the description. You can go through it. Now going back to the topic, Pulumi. So Pulumi is one such IAC platform, and the advantage is that Pulumi is completely open source. So anyone can use Pulumi platform without thinking of licensing considerations. And the other advantage of Pulumi is that it supports 6 popular programming languages. So you don't have an entry barrier if you are a developer, and if you know one of these 6 programming languages, it becomes easy for you. So if you know Go, if you know Java, if you know Node.js or even TypeScript, if you know Python, .NET, or even if you know YAML, you can actually learn Pulumi in couple of days of time. Because once you know these things, all that you need to do is look at Pulumi documentation, understand what packages to use within Pulumi, what functions to use within Pulumi, and rest is done for you. But Abhishek, whenever we hear infrastructure as code, the tool that comes into mind is Terraform. Yes, Terraform is a very popular ISC tool or a very popular ISC platform, but it comes with minor challenges, and those minor challenges is what Pulumi is trying to address, or Pulumi is trying to capture the market by trying to fix these minor challenges. First one with Terraform is Terraform licensing change. Recently, HashiCorp has changed the license of Terraform from open source to closed source. Now, this makes some companies to, or this does not allow some companies to use Terraform in production. Also, some companies might hesitate. Terraform might again change license in the future. So, those companies are thinking to migrate to Pulumi, or maybe alternatives like OpenTofu or Crossplane. Second challenge with Terraform is its state management. If you remember a couple of minutes back, I explained one of the key characteristics of IAC platforms, they remember the resources that they created. So every IAC platform, they remember the instances or resources they created so that in future, if you want to update the existing infrastructure, they can easily do it. All that they do is they take a note of the metadata of the resources they created. So state management is a very important thing. And with Terraform, it's a challenge because you have to go for a remote backend. Or if you're using Terraform, you also have to implement the state locking. And the other challenge with Terraform, not only licensing, not only state management, Terraform use something called HCL, which is HashiCorp language. Now, this is typically a templating language. This is not a programming language. So when you have to use loops or when you have to go for conditionals or anything dynamic, it becomes difficult with Terraform because Terraform does not offer that flexibility which comes with programming languages. Because programming languages are known for this. They are known for looping, they are known for conditionals, they are known for dynamic content. But HCL, which is a templating language, cannot give you the same flexibility. So these are some challenges with Terraform and they are addressed by Pulumi. Of course, as I told you, when we discuss about cons of Pulumi towards the end, I'll also tell you the disadvantages of using Pulumi and advantages of using Terraform. Now let's go ahead and try to install Pulumi. So before we install Pulumi, you need to create an account with Pulumi. It's completely free of cost. So just go for app.pulumi.com. So this is the URL. Head to app.pulumi.com. Use your GitHub, GitLab, or Atlassian. Or you can also use SSO if you're going for Pulumi Enterprise. But yeah, I have created my account using GitHub. Now, once you have your account created, next step is to install Pulumi CLI. How do you do that? Just head to Pulumi documentation. I'll put all these links in the description. You don't have to take note of anything. So take your terminal, download and install. So I'm using macOS. If you're going for Windows or Linux, click on these tabs. So personally, I'll choose this and I will run brew install command on my terminal. So I already done it, brew install Pulumi, and I have the latest version of Pulumi installed. You can also verify it. Just run Pulumi version or Pulumi version. So if you get this response, that means you have Pulumi installed and it is also configured in the path. Now what do you do next? So the second thing, once you install Pulumi, just click on getting started and you have steps for AWS, Azure, Google Cloud or Kubernetes. Now one thing you need to remember, without authenticating, IAC tools cannot help you create infrastructure. So if you want to create infrastructure on AWS, you should first set up authentication for AWS. So that you do on your terminal. Basically for AWS, you have to run AWS configure command. So once you run AWS configure, it asks you for AWS access key ID. Then it asks you for AWS secret access key, region, that's it. So once you're done with this, you have authenticated Pulumi with AWS. You don't have to do anything additional. If you want, you can configure profile, but if you want to get started, this is all what you do. Similarly, if you want to go for Azure, you can do AZ login on your terminal. And once your AZ login is done, your Pulumi is authenticated with Azure as well. Okay, so let's go to AWS and let's click on getting started. An AWS account and Python, perfect. I'll choose Python as a programming language. If you're good with something else, you can go for it. I'm ready to begin. Okay, we have configured the access as well. Create a project. So we'll set up our very first project. Create a directory for Pulumi. Perfect. mkdir Pulumi start AWS. Then let's cd to the directory that we created. Pulumi start AWS. You can also do the same steps along with me. Now what I'll do is I will run this command Pulumi new AWS Python. So this is basically for getting started. This is a simple project that is like Hello World project. For beginners who want to get started with Pulumi, who are not good with programming, they can use this command and it will set up a simple Hello World like project for you. So what does it say? Enter the access token for https app.pulumi.com. So you have to go back to your Pulumi, the one that you created account, personal access tokens, create token. Let me say this as demo, 30 days validity, create the token. Perfect. So I have created the token. I'll paste it here. Now, what did I do? So what I have done here, I have granted access for my local machine to my Pulumi account. So now every infrastructure that is being created or every resource that is being created, state management, or even I can view the resources on my app.pulumi.com account. So this is a difference. If you're doing it with Terraform, only if you have Terraform cloud access, you can do the same thing. But with Pulumi, you can do it for absolutely free of cost. So Pulumi offers its Pulumi cloud platform for free if you are a small team or individual, unlike Terraform cloud. Okay, going back, project name, I'll just say Pulumi demo. Project description, I'll say the same thing, Pulumi demo. Stack name, what exactly is stack name? If you know Terraform, this is like Terraform workspaces. If you're not sure about Terraform, stack name is nothing but, imagine in your organization, you have dev environment, staging environment, and production environment, or you want to isolate code between different projects, you can basically create workspaces. So stack is nothing but workspaces. Okay, I'll just say it as dev. I'm perfectly fine with it. I want to install dependencies with pip because I'm using Python. US East 1 region, absolutely fine. Started creating dependencies. Perfect. It will also generate a dummy code for me so that I don't have to write Python code. Just for Hello World, it will create a S3 bucket. It will generate code for S3 bucket. Let's see. If I do ls, I have a .py file here, which is main.py. Let's see what is inside this file. Import Pulumi from Pulumi AWS. But Abhishek, what is this Pulumi AWS? This is what I was talking about. If you're using IRC platforms, within your Python code, you can use some packages, and these packages will do the heavy lifting for you. So instead of writing a lot of code, with these packages, you can write very, very little code. So that is what we are doing here. So we will use Pulumi AWS. So from Pulumi AWS, we have imported S3. So all that we are saying here, S3.bucket, name of the bucket. And then we are saying pulumi.export this particular bucket name. That's it. S3 bucket will be created. But Abhishek, I don't know how to write this code. That's totally fine because no one knows how to use these packages, because within AWS package there are hundreds of modules, because there are hundreds of resources. So whether it is me or experienced Pulumi developer, everyone will just head to the Pulumi documentation. Within the Pulumi documentation, they will head to packages. They will select AWS, and within AWS, they will select S3. I mean, if they want to create resources on S3, let me search for it. Perfect. AWS S3. Let's say this one. So they'll just go here. They will look at the examples. For example, this is the code for creating S3 replicated bucket. So they'll just copy this code and they'll put this in the Python file. Anyone has to do the same thing because no one can remember all the packages and within the packages, all the modules. That's why documentation is important for IAC platforms. Or you can use ChatGPT or you can use any of the AI assistants. But it's not guaranteed you get the right code. From documentation, you get the right code. What I'm trying to emphasize here, you don't have to worry about writing code, because to write code, anyone has to refer to the documentation. Going back, vim __ main.py. I'll change the name of the bucket because I know this is not a unique name. I'll call it as my bucket 123 Pulumi demo Veeramalla, because Abhishek is also not a unique name. I'm trying to keep it as unique as possible because S3 bucket names have to be unique. Okay. And Abhishek, what is in the rest of the files? There are two important files here. One is pulumi.yaml and other is pulumi.dev.yaml. Pulumi.yaml has the general configuration. So it has general metadata about the project, whereas pulumi.dev.yaml has the general metadata about the workspace. You can have multiple workspaces. You can have a dev workspace, you can have the stage workspace, you can have the prod workspace for the same code, right? Now, you can run Pulumi preview. Pulumi preview is like Terraform plan. Before creating the infrastructure, when you run this command on the Pulumi cloud, also on the terminal, it will show the resources it is going to create. If you are comfortable with the resources it is creating, you can run Pulumi up. What does it say? Okay, Abhishek, if you run Pulumi up, next, if you run Pulumi up, I will be creating AWS S3 bucket. I will also create a stack or a workspace called Pulumi demo workspace. Right now, if you head to the Pulumi account, you will not find any workspace or you will not find any stack, right? There are absolutely no stacks here. Of course, this is something, it is yet to be created. It is yet to be updated. So I will run Pulumi up now. Let's see what happens. It says you can also view the things that are happening. If you are not interested in terminal, you can also click this and you can see everything on the Pulumi console. Do you want to perform this update? Yes, I want to do it. Okay. Within the stack, this stack is being created, Pulumi dev, demo dev, and this is the S3 bucket that is being created. So Pulumi preview is like Terraform plan and Pulumi up is exactly like Terraform apply. It says resource is created. Let's look at our AWS account. I'll just run AWS S3 ls. Perfect. So the bucket is created. So this is the bucket and we have the same bucket created. So this is how Pulumi works. Once again, what you need to remember here, you have to remember the comparison between Terraform and Pulumi if you're coming from Terraform world. If you're not at all aware of Terraform, you can skip this section. So Terraform plan is like Pulumi preview. Terraform apply is like Pulumi up. Terraform workspaces, in Terraform you call workspaces. In Pulumi, you call the same thing as stacks. In Terraform, you call modules. In Pulumi, you call the same thing as components. Because both of them are IAC platforms, they have things in common. Okay, so we can see the same thing on the Pulumi account as well. So we have this stack created, and within the stack, we have dev workspace, and within the dev workspace, we have the S3 bucket created. But now, Abhishek, how does the state management work? Because for every cloud platform, for every IAC tool, state management is the most important thing. So one thing that you have to remember, Pulumi comes with a default state, that is app.pulumi.com. Right? Whatever we saw, app.pulumi.com, that also maintain the state of your Pulumi configuration. We have seen it just now. So this is the entire state that it is maintaining. If you try to update the infrastructure, if you try to delete the infrastructure, it remembers the infrastructure that you created from here. For example, if I just run Pulumi down, so you will see it remembers, okay, Abhishek, you just created a stack. So do you want me to remember delete a stack as well as the bucket? If I say yes, okay, it is destroying the dev workspace. Perfect. It destroyed the bucket as well. All good. So it said, I have deleted the workspace for you. If you want me to delete everything completely, you just have to run Pulumi stack rm dev. Yes, I want to do it. My bad. Confirm. Dev. Great. So stack is also removed. Terraform implements the remote backend if you do it explicitly by using remote backend. Pulumi also supports the remote backend, but by default, if you don't want to go for a remote backend, by default, it remembers and maintains the state using app.pulumi.com. That's what this diagram also explains here. This is the architecture diagram. This is where the state is mentioned, maintained. And the advantage that you get here is that along with the state, if you are worrying, but Abhishek, my state is secure or not, it maintains the state within a AWS VPC. So everyone gets an individual VPC so that your state is secure. Along with that, it also comes with a very strong RBAC. It comes with a strong RBAC. It also comes with encryption. So if you want, you can perform encryption on app.pulumi.com. You can implement RBAC. So only certain people within your organization can access your Pulumi organization. You can also maintain versioning of your state file. Everything that you can do with a remote backend, something like Git or something like S3 bucket, you can do that using this app.pulumi.com. Abhishek, I don't want to use the hosted one because even after RBAC, I'm still not very confident about it, or I'm not confident about its encryption. That's totally fine. You can also host this entire thing. So if you want, you can host your own Pulumi cloud, I mean, and you can use it for your organization, which is not possible with Terraform. If you're going with Terraform, you only have to go for Terraform cloud. You cannot host your own Terraform cloud. With Pulumi, you can do it for absolutely free of cost. Otherwise, it also supports S3 as remote backend or Azure Storage as remote backend, Azure Blob as remote backend. So this is about state management with Pulumi. Now let's discuss the pros and cons of Pulumi. Okay, one thing is that you definitely have to look at the documentation, whether it is Terraform, whether it is Pulumi, you cannot remember everything. So remembering is not a thing. Everyone has to go through the documentation. It can be any ISC tool. So let's skip that point. Otherwise, Pulumi is suitable if you are good with programming. If you're not good with programming, like majority of the DevOps engineers, they don't come from a programming background. So this tool is not that suitable because Pulumi is good only if you have at least basic understanding of these programming languages. Otherwise, you will have a steep learning curve. Also, Pulumi is relatively new. So if you run into any issues, you will not find so many knowledge bases, just like what you find with Terraform. So that is another major disadvantage. Now coming to the advantages, because it's written in code, you can use your Visual Studio Code. You can use chat assistants, something like GitHub Copilot. You can use the Pulumi extension and you can do the vibe coding. That means you can write a lot of code using AI. However, it is subjected to an information. At this point, Pulumi is relatively new. So vibe coding might give you wrong results as well. For basic things like EC2, S3, or maybe creating some fundamental AWS or Azure resources, it works perfectly fine. So this is one of significant advantage. Again, if you are a developer, it's an advantage to you because you know programming. You don't have to learn a new tool called Terraform. You don't have to learn HCL. You don't have to understand state management, and you don't have to bother about how to write these HCL files. So there are pros and cons for Pulumi. There are pros and cons for Terraform. Depending upon your organizational requirement and depending upon the skill set of your existing DevOps engineers, pick up the platform. I have made a detailed comparison of different IIC tools, not only Terraform, not only Pulumi, OpenTofu, and also Crossplane. I'll put that link in the description. If you're interested, you can go through that video. See you all in the next video. I hope you found it informative. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.